Martha Williams stood in front of a white house in the quiet suburbs of Willow Grove, Ohio. She gazed absently at the golden leaves falling from the swaying maple trees. New lines of deep sorrow were etched on her face. A week ago, Martha's daughter Amy had passed away at the young age of 36. The doctor's words, "health deterioration of unknown causes," still echoed in her ears. Just a few months after Amy's condition had rapidly worsened. Despite seeing various specialists, not a single one could provide a clear diagnosis. A small hand tugged at Martha's arm. Looking down, she saw Amy's daughter Lily standing there with a worried expression. The 6-year-old girl's large blue eyes seemed to reflect her grandmother's sadness. "Yes, I'm all right, Lily," Martha managed a smile and gently stroked her granddaughter's head. "Come on, let's go inside. It's getting chilly." Entering the living room, a gentle fire illuminated the space. Martha had retired 3 years ago after a long career as a nurse. She had planned to devote her life after retirement to enjoying time with Amy and her family. But now, everything had changed. Amy had been Martha's only hope. Raised by Martha as a single mother, Amy had graduated from nursing school and begun working as a pediatric nurse at the local hospital. There, she met Gregory Payne, a successful investment advisor. Gregory proposed to Amy after just 6 months of dating. After 10 years of marriage, they appeared to have built a happy home. Gregory's income supported the family well, and they had moved to a nice house in the suburbs a few years ago. When Lily was born, Amy reduced her nursing hours to prioritize family time. On the surface, they were the perfect family. "Grandma, I'm hungry," Lily said. Martha was pulled from her thoughts and nodded. "Yes, let's make something to eat." While preparing dinner in the kitchen, Martha reflected on the past 2 years. Amy's health had begun to gradually deteriorate around that time. What initially seemed like mere fatigue eventually developed into serious symptoms. Chronic nausea, unexplained abdominal pain, and sudden weight loss. Doctors performed various tests, but there was no clear diagnosis. "It might be an autoimmune disease," one doctor said. "These symptoms could be stress-related," another suggested. "Further testing is needed," remarked a third specialist. But no matter how many tests were done, no answers were found. Amy was hospitalized multiple times, and ultimately died from weakness. Martha had been holding her daughter's hand when she took her last breath. "Mom, please take care of Lily," Amy had whispered weakly. "Protect her." Those were her daughter's last words. "Grandma, the pancakes are burning." Lily's voice brought Martha back to reality, and she quickly flipped the pancakes. They were a bit charred but still edible. "Sorry, Lily. I was just thinking about something." After dinner, once Lily was tucked in bed, Martha sat on the sofa in the living room and opened an old album. Flipping through the photos of Amy's smiling face one by one, she began to wonder. Why couldn't the doctors identify the cause? Why had Amy's body weakened so rapidly? During the funeral preparations, Martha had been taking care of Lily. Gregory claimed he was busy with work and was hardly ever home. Lily didn't seem to fully understand her mother's death yet. Sometimes, she said odd things. Mom said it hurt at night. Dad was giving Mom injections. Mom was writing in a secret book. Martha had thought it was just a child's imagination or confusion from grief. Children sometimes can't distinguish between reality and fantasy, especially after experiencing a significant loss. But tonight, gazing at the fire in the fireplace, Martha felt a growing concern that Lily's words might not just be a child's imagination. From her years of experience as a nurse, she had sensed something troubling about Amy's symptoms. They resembled symptoms of poisoning. Outside the window, the wind grew stronger, making the old house creak. The funeral was the day after tomorrow. Martha had arranged to meet Amy's best friend Caroline tomorrow. She took a deep breath and closed the album. Amy, I promise I'll find out what happened to you, she vowed. The next morning, Martha left Lily with Gregory's mother and met Amy's best friend Caroline at a cafe. The cold October rain tapped against the windows, making the warmth inside feel welcome. Caroline had been Amy's friend since nursing school and still worked at the same hospital. She looked at Martha with red, swollen eyes. Martha, this is so hard, Caroline squeezed Martha's hand. I can't believe what happened to Amy. Martha held her coffee cup with both hands, trying to feel its warmth. I can't believe it either. Why couldn't the doctors find the cause? Caroline looked around and lowered her voice. Actually, a few weeks before Amy's death, she was acting strangely. What do you mean? Amy called me. She was terrified and said, if anything happens to me, look at this, and promised to send me something by email. But nothing ever arrived. Caroline took a deep breath. She seemed to be keeping a secret notebook, recording changes in her health and symptoms. Martha's heart began to race. Did you see this notebook? No, I never saw it. But she said, I'm worried about Gregory. She was about to tell me more when the call suddenly cut off. After that, I called several times, but there was no answer. Martha frowned. Did she say anything specific about Gregory? Nothing directly. Just that he had changed recently. And that he seemed to be hiding something. Caroline lowered her voice. Also, there's one thing that bothers me. Amy said about her symptoms, this isn't a normal illness. Their conversation moved on to funeral details and memories, but Martha's mind was filled with Caroline's words. After leaving the cafe and getting into her car, she made a decision. She would go to Amy's house and look for that notebook. Amy and Gregory's home was in an upscale neighborhood in Willow Grove. Martha used her key to enter. Gregory was out for work, and Lily was still with her grandmother. The house was completely silent. Martha headed for Amy's bedroom. She searched the closet, drawers, and bookshelves, but found nothing resembling a notebook. Suddenly, she remembered the jewelry box Amy had treasured since nursing school. It was always kept on her dresser. Opening the box, she found it filled with Amy's mementos. But there was no notebook. Martha sighed and looked around the room. Where could she have hidden it? If she moved it, it would be somewhere no one would find it. Martha said to herself. She checked under the bed, between the mattresses, behind paintings. Nothing was found. Just as she was about to give up, she thought of checking Lily's room. Amy might have hidden something important in Lily's room. She didn't know why, but she felt it could be there. Entering Lily's bright pink room, she saw stuffed animals and picture books neatly arranged. Martha opened the closet and began examining the shelves. Grandma. Martha jumped and turned around. A small voice came from the living room. Gregory's mother had brought Lily home. Martha hurried downstairs. I'm sorry, we came back a bit early, Judith, Gregory's mother, said. Lily wanted to see you. Martha forced a smile and embraced Lily. Thank you, Judith. Would you like some tea? Judith looked at her watch. I'm sorry, I have another appointment. Maybe later. After Judith left, Martha asked Lily, how was it? Did you have fun at Grandma's? Lily nodded but quickly became serious. Grandma, are you looking for Mom's special book? Martha's heart skipped a beat. Special book? Yes, the book Mom was always writing in. Mom said, it's an important secret book, so don't tell anyone. Lily said in a small voice. But since Mom is gone now, I think it's okay to tell you. Martha knelt down to Lily's eye level and quietly asked, do you know where this book is? Lily nodded and took Martha's hand. Follow me. Lily returned to her room and pointed to a small toy box beside her bed. In there. Inside the dollhouse. Martha looked at Lily's dollhouse. It was an elaborate 3-story structure. When Lily opened the front, it revealed little rooms created with attention to detail. Here, Lily pointed to the attic. There was a small secret drawer. Martha gently opened the drawer and took out a small red notebook. The cover read, "My personal record." "Mom wrote important things here," Lily said. "It was a secret from Dad." Martha opened the notebook with trembling hands. Inside were detailed records of Amy's health problems, with precise dates. September 3rd, nausea and trembling again. Got worse after Gregory came home last night. Could there be a connection? September 15th, strange purple spots appeared on my abdomen. Showed the doctor, but was only told it might be an allergic reaction. September 28th, Gregory is hiding something. Found an unfamiliar bottle in his drawer. When I asked him about it, he became furious. Most shockingly, on the last page of the notebook, written in bold, was, "If anything happens to me, examine my body. This is not a normal illness. Someone is doing this to me. Gregory's behavior is suspicious. He recently suggested increasing my life insurance." Martha closed the notebook. In her mind, all the pieces were starting to connect. From her years of experience as a nurse, she recognized that Amy's symptoms matched those of some kind of poisoning. Lily's words, Caroline's story, and this notebook. Suddenly, she heard the front door open. "Is anyone here?" Gregory's voice echoed. Martha quickly put the notebook in her bag and signaled to Lily. "Your dad's home," she said in a normal voice. "Let's keep this our secret," she added in a whisper. Lily nodded and put her finger to her lips. The two went downstairs. On the day of the funeral, the sky was covered with leaden clouds. The interior of the First Methodist Church was filled with the scent of white lilies, and quiet words of prayer echoed. Martha sat in the front row with Amy's notebook hidden in her handbag. Lily sat quietly next to her, wearing a black dress. The church was filled with mourners. Amy had been loved by many through her work at the hospital. Martha looked back and saw Caroline with tears in her eyes. A few rows behind, she noticed Detective Harris. Martha had gathered the courage to contact the local police the night before and share her suspicions. Though initially skeptical, Detective Harris had promised to at least listen after seeing Amy's notebook. Amy was a wonderful wife and mother. Gregory's voice interrupted Martha's thoughts. He stood in front of the altar, perfectly playing the role of a grieving husband. Dressed in a black suit with tears in his eyes, he spoke of memories with his wife. The mourners gave sympathetic looks and quietly wiped away tears with handkerchiefs. "Her sudden illness tore our lives apart. But Amy lives on in our beloved daughter Lily." Martha clenched her fists tightly. All of Gregory's words sounded like lies. If he had loved Amy, why had he poisoned her? Martha recalled the contents of Amy's notebook. Gregory had suggested increasing her life insurance. For money. Or was there another reason? After Gregory's speech ended and the pastor offered a final prayer, mourners began lining up to say their final goodbyes at the open casket. Martha held Lily's hand and slowly joined the line. Amy's coffin was adorned with white flowers, and she looked as if she were peacefully sleeping. Dressed in a white satin dress, her arranged golden hair flowed over her shoulders. Only, there was an unnatural amount of makeup on her face. With her nurse's eye, Martha understood it was to hide the paleness and sunken cheeks caused by her weakened state. When Martha stood before the coffin, her heart was beating wildly. The final farewell to her beloved daughter. She placed her trembling hand over Amy's cold one. "Goodbye, Amy. I'll reveal the truth. I promise," she whispered. As Martha was about to leave, a small hand pulled at her dress. "Grandma." Lily's small voice was heard. Martha bent down to her granddaughter, who was quietly tugging at her dress. No one was paying attention to them. Everyone was absorbed in their own grief. "What is it, Lily?" Lily looked around and put her mouth close to Martha's ear. "Mom is saying," she whispered. "Look at her stomach." Martha shivered. There was a serious light in Lily's eyes, as if she were delivering a message from her mother. For a moment, Martha thought Lily's words were a product of imagination. But then she remembered what was written in Amy's notebook. "If anything happens to me, examine my body." Martha looked around again. Gregory was talking to the pastor, with his back to them. Mourners were beginning to return to their seats. If she missed this chance, she might never know the truth. "Lily, can you keep watch? If anyone comes near, give a little cough." Lily nodded slightly. She might not fully understand her mother's death, but she seemed to sense that something important was happening. Martha took a deep breath and with trembling hands gently grasped the fabric covering Amy's abdomen. Slowly, she lifted the fabric over the dress. There, she found confirmation of her worst fears. Multiple small purple spots were scattered across Amy's abdomen. From her nursing experience, Martha immediately recognized them as injection marks. There was a faint discoloration around the spots, which was evidence of long-term medication. Someone had been continuously injecting something into Amy. These marks were distributed in a pattern that wouldn't occur during normal treatment. So this was the cause, Martha murmured. Her heart was filled with intense anger and sorrow. "What are you doing?" A low voice came from behind her. Martha spun around as if jumping. Gregory was standing behind her. The color had drained from his face in an instant, and sweat was beading on his forehead. "Gregory," Martha said quietly. Her eyes moved from the spots on Amy's abdomen to Gregory's trembling hands. When Gregory realized what Martha had seen, the color drained even further from his face. "Pretend you didn't see anything," he said through clenched teeth. "You did this to her," Martha said in a low voice. Her voice contained decades of anger. Gregory couldn't say anything. He looked around and tried to stagger away. But Detective Harris was standing at the entrance of the church. The detective had noticed Gregory's unusual behavior and was watching intently. Martha took Lily's hand and walked toward Detective Harris. The detective's eyes moved from Martha to Gregory, sensing that something had happened. "Detective Harris," Martha said quietly. "I know what caused my daughter's death. There are multiple injection marks on her abdomen. Just as Amy's notebook said." The detective nodded and looked at Gregory. Gregory had now turned completely pale, with sweat dripping from his face. He stepped back and suddenly made a run for the exit. "Gregory Payne." Detective Harris raised his voice. "Stop right there." The church froze at the sudden commotion. Mourners stood up in confusion, trying to understand what was happening. Caroline rushed over and took Lily from Martha, embracing her. "It's okay, Lily," she said to the little girl. "It's okay." Gregory reached the church doors, but 2 police officers were waiting there. On Detective Harris's instructions, they were already prepared. Gregory was caught and handcuffed. "Gregory Payne, I'm arresting you on suspicion of the murder of your wife, Amy Payne," Detective Harris declared. Martha stood there, watching everything. Her heart was filled with complex emotions. Relief, sadness, and anger. Looking at Amy's coffin, she said quietly, "I found the truth, Amy, as I promised." Martha returned to Lily and embraced her granddaughter. Tears shone in Lily's blue eyes, but there was also a strange relief in them. "Mom is watching," Lily said to her grandmother. "Mom is happy now." 2 days later, Martha sat in a small conference room at the local police station. Across the table were Detective Harris and Prosecutor Sarah Jenkins. Lily was in the next room, drawing pictures with a police psychologist. Gregory refuses to talk, Detective Harris said. He's communicating only through his lawyer and claiming complete innocence. Martha opened Amy's notebook and placed it on the table. This is my daughter's record. She was aware of what was happening. She just didn't have enough evidence. Sarah Jenkins frowned as she turned the pages of the notebook. This certainly shows her concerns, but it's not enough to win in court. We need forensic evidence. I've requested a detailed examination of Amy's body, Detective Harris said. Toxicology tests are being conducted. It will take a few more days for the results. Martha took a deep breath. I am a former nurse. Amy's symptoms indicate she was being poisoned. In particular, the pattern of injection marks I saw suggests small doses administered over a long period. Detective Harris nodded. Gregory's computer and cell phone have been seized. The digital forensics team is investigating. We're also examining his financial records. There's one thing that concerns me, Martha said. About Amy's life insurance. Sarah Jenkins pulled out some documents. We've already investigated that. Gregory Payne increased his wife's life insurance from $500,000 to $5 million 6 months ago. The insurance company was suspicious, but considering his economic status, they decided it wasn't an unusual amount. $5 million. Martha murmured. More than enough motive. After the meeting, Martha contacted her former colleague, Janet Morris, who now works in the toxicology department of the state hospital. They met at a cafe, and Martha talked about Amy's symptoms, the contents of the notebook, and the injection marks she found at the funeral. Based on these symptoms and marks, Janet said after examining the materials with a medical eye, arsenic poisoning is highly likely. Especially if small amounts were administered over a long period, these symptoms would appear. Gradual loss of strength, digestive problems, skin discoloration, it all fits. But why didn't the doctors notice? Martha asked. Arsenic poisoning is difficult to diagnose, Janet explained. Especially when administered in small doses over a long period. It's not easily detected in general tests, and the symptoms can be confused with many other illnesses. If doctors don't perform specific toxin tests, it can be overlooked. Martha nodded. Gregory knew that. It was also necessary to get more details from Lily. Martha spoke gently with her, with a psychology specialist present. Lily, do you remember when Mom was sick? Did you ever see Dad doing anything to Mom? Lily, playing with a doll, innocently answered, Dad gave Mom medicine to make her better. At night, after everyone was asleep. How did he give her the medicine? With injections, Lily pointed to her arm. Dad gave Mom injections in her tummy. Mom said it hurt, but Dad said, this will make you better. How many times did you see this? Lily shrugged her small shoulders. Many times. Dad said, this is an important secret to help Mom get better. Don't tell anyone, Lily. This is a family secret. Martha's heart ached. How cruel to use a child to murder his wife. The call from Detective Harris came that evening. Mrs. Williams, his voice was excited. We found crucial evidence on Gregory's computer. Over the past 6 months, he has searched for effects of arsenic, undetectable poisons, poison administration by injection, and more. We also found records of arsenic compound purchases under a false name. Martha gripped the phone. Furthermore, there were problems with his financial records, Detective Harris continued. He had suffered major investment losses but was hiding them. His company was essentially on the verge of bankruptcy. The insurance money was his only way out. He was using Amy, Martha's voice trembled with anger. The next day, the final report arrived from the forensic team. High concentrations of arsenic were detected in Amy's body. In particular, traces accumulated through continuous injections were found in tissue samples from her abdomen. The evidence was overwhelming. Gregory Payne was formally charged with first-degree murder. He still maintained his innocence, but even his lawyers seemed overwhelmed by the weight of evidence. The media reported the case extensively. Headlines such as, "Investment Advisor Poisons Wife," and "Planned Murder for $5 million Insurance," filled the papers. Martha remained secluded at home to protect Lily from the commotion. On the day of the preliminary hearing, Martha faced Gregory for the first time. He was surrounded by guards, wearing an orange prison uniform. Gone was his formerly confident appearance, he looked pale and haggard. When the judge denied his bail application, Gregory looked at Martha for the first time. There was a mixture of fear and anger in his eyes. Martha looked straight back at him, not backing down an inch. "You took everything from my daughter," Martha thought to herself. "But I'll protect Lily from you." As she was leaving the courtroom, prosecutor Sarah Jenkins approached Martha. "Mrs. Williams, without your courage and persistence, this case would not have been solved," she said with a serious expression. "There's still much to do, but justice will prevail." That night, as Martha was tucking Lily into bed, she gazed at Amy's photo. "Is Mom watching from heaven?" Lily asked with sleepy eyes. "Yes, I'm sure she is," Martha gently stroked her granddaughter's hair. "Mom loved you very much. And she's still watching over you." Lily smiled. "I know. Mom talks to me sometimes." Martha's eyes widened in surprise. "Really? What does she say?" "Stay with Grandma," Lily replied. "Grandma is strong and smart, and she'll protect you." Tears welled in Martha's eyes. She offered a small prayer in her heart. "Amy, don't worry. I'll take good care of Lily. And I'll make sure your death wasn't in vain." Outside the window, stars quietly shone. It was the beginning of a long battle, but Martha vowed never to give up. 10 months later, in the solemn courtroom of the Ohio Supreme Court, a sentence was handed down to Gregory Payne. After a 3-week trial, the jury reached a unanimous verdict in just 4 hours. Guilty. Defendant Gregory Payne, the jury has found you guilty of first-degree murder, Judge Jones's voice echoed through the courtroom. This court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Martha quietly closed her eyes. The long journey that began with Amy's death had finally come to an end. Prosecutor Sarah Jenkins, who sat next to her, gently squeezed her hand. Gregory maintained his innocence to the end, but was crushed by the mountain of evidence. His face had turned ashen, and his former composure had disappeared. When he was led away from the defendant's stand, he glanced at Martha, but no longer had the courage to meet her eyes. Outside the courtroom, Martha spoke with Detective Harris, Caroline, and her lawyer. Custody of Lily had already been transferred to Martha, and Gregory's parents did not seek visitation rights with their granddaughter. They were deeply hurt by their son's actions and had quietly left town. "What will you do now?" Caroline asked. "A new beginning," Martha answered. "For Lily and me." True to her word, Martha left the small town and moved to a quiet suburb near Lake Michigan. There, Lily began attending a new school, and Martha started working part-time as a hospital volunteer. She was particularly active in organizations supporting victims of domestic violence and hidden abuse, using her own experience to bring hope to many people. Lily gradually recovered while receiving regular psychological counseling. Sometimes it was painful to see her mother's resemblance in her, but it brought even more joy. Lily often looked at her mother's album and began to ask Martha, "Tell me about Mom." Martha gladly continued to share beautiful memories of Amy. Gregory's days in prison were harsh. As a man who had coldly poisoned his wife, he was kept at a distance even by other inmates. He requested transfers to solitary confinement multiple times but was denied, and gradually became mentally cornered. The man who once boasted of economic success was now abandoned by everyone. 5 years later, on a spring day, 11-year-old Lily was planting flowers with Martha in the garden of their new home. "Grandma," Lily said with a serious expression, "when I grow up, I want to be a doctor." "Really?" Martha smiled. "Why?" "I want to help people," Lily answered simply. "Like Mom did." That weekend, they placed fresh flowers on Amy's grave. In the quiet cemetery, Lily put her hand on the tombstone and whispered, "Mom, we found it for you. The truth." Martha placed her hand on her granddaughter's shoulder, and they stood in silence. The soft spring breeze ruffled their hair, and birdsong could be heard in the distance. In this moment, Martha gained a deep insight. Family is not just about blood ties. The bond of protecting each other and cherishing the truth is what makes a true family. She and Lily had spun a new bond from tragedy. "Shall we go, Lily?" Martha said gently. "For a new beginning." Lily nodded and took her grandmother's hand. The two figures, bathed in spring sunlight, left the cemetery behind.